The last of the icons that we're working on is, or rather, that one is the notebook. The notebook has a couple of characteristics that make it challenging. Isn't exactly the right word, but they require that you sort of approach it in a certain way. We're going to do a rounded rectangle, or a rectangle that we round the corners of for the front edge. We're going to do a standard rectangle for the back, so that's going to require two separate pieces. There's some lines that we're going to have to draw. There's one somewhat significant edit that we're going to have to do to a path on the front corner, because we need sharp cornered rectangle for 3 of the 4 sides and a rounded corner for the 4th, similar to what happened with our camera that we did initially. And then we have the tabs off of the front. So not complex, mostly shape primitives, a little bit of editing, not too bad, but we're going to work our way through that one now. Okay, so my first shape is going to be that rectangle that I'm going to use for the front, and I'm going to go ahead and draw it. Even if mine extends off the edge a little bit, it's not a big deal, but I'll scoot it on. It should be fine. And let's see, so that's going to be my basic notebook size. I'm going to switch to the white arrow in a moment to do the rounded corner, but before I do that, I'm going to use my original rectangle to give me what I'm going to need for the back edge. So I'm going to hold down my Option key, I'm going to drag over to the left, and this is going to be the back edge of my shape ultimately. It needs to be a lot narrower, but it's exactly the right height because I'm starting from the same shape, and so that's why I just made that copy. I'm going to turn my borders on so that it's a little bit easier to see what's happening with these, and now you see what that copied rectangle looks like. I scaled it down so that it's much narrower, but it's based off the original. I did it with the Alt key and the Shift key to keep it in the correct position. I'm going to grab the front one. I've got my white arrow, and I'm going to round those corners up now until I have the rounded section that I need. And now this is pretty much the look we're going after for the rectangular shape. It's in the correct orientation and all that kind of stuff. If you drew yours as 2 separate objects, the only trick that you have to follow is make sure that their height exactly matches. So if you did, one rectangle and then a separate one and so forth, if the height is okay and they're aligned correctly, then you should be good for this one. All right, so that's my basic notebook shape. I need to add the additional objects that I'm going to need to make this work. My upper one is going to be a standard rectangle, and it's going to match up along the top and the right edges. The corner hangs off right now. I'm going to have to fix that. I know that. And then I have some additional shapes that I need to draw. I'm going to need the borders turned on these shapes eventually, but for now it's okay so long as I know that they're there, that the borders are not turned on. And I'm doing the tabs that are going to go along the front, and I'm going to draw one of them and then create copies for the extra ones that I need. Again, this is an Alt drag for all. All right, so now that I have all the pieces, with the exception of the lines that I'm going to use on the notebook label, I'm going to select all of those sections or pieces that I just drew and make the borders visible so that I can more easily tell how I'm doing. And that's not too bad. So I just held the Shift key down and selected all the multiples and got all those. And I'm going to add the lines on my notebook label, holding the Shift to keep this horizontal. And I'm using my Alt drag to create copies, because that's always easier than drawing new items. And now that they're here, I'm ready essentially to address this front corner. This is going to be easier to do if this object that I have drawn doesn't have a fill. So I'm going to set the fill at 0%, and I'm now able to see it. And I'm going to zoom in so that I can really tell what the heck's going on with that guy. So I've zoomed in on that section. I'm going to switch back to my white arrow, and I'm going to need point level access. So I have that small upper right rectangle selected. I'm going to go to Modify, Path, Convert to Path, and that gets me into the correct mode. I could immediately reshape this corner point, but I want you to see an alternate. I'm going to grab my pen tool and I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of points to stabilize, if you will, this line so that there's not a massive shape change before I turn it into a rounded one. And you'll probably see that this is a little bit easier than what we did last time. So I've got the corner selected. I'm going to click on the mirrored option, which causes it to round up and give me the handles, which is what I need, but it didn't cause the whole line to get weird and swoopy. And that's because it is sort of preserving a little bit of the original line shape before it does the curve handle bit, which is what I wanted to do. All right, and so that's pretty close. I could tweak it more and work on it additionally, but this is definitely workable from where we are. There's a little bit of a positional issue with where I put one of those points is part of what I'm running into. But that's better. Okay, it was better. All right, close enough. So I now have the rounded corner on the front. I have the rest of the shape that I need there. What I don't have overall is everything with the same weight border. And I want to fix that for sure. And the last thing that I want to do is make these not black. All of the lines are currently black. I want them something other than black. I've got burgundy and sort of a turquoise at the moment. I think I'm going to go therefore with purple. Ooh, that is a really unpleasant color, purple. It's a little too neon. So I've gone with a darker purple, and my notebook has a fill for the most part. The sample one doesn't, so if you wanted to change the color of the fill to something different or do away with the fill altogether, you can absolutely do that. To zero it out, give nothing a fill, you could do that as well. Problem with that is this. We actually didn't merge these two shapes earlier. We could have done, it would have added certain other challenges, so at the very least, we probably need some sort of fill this time to keep it from being an issue for us. So I've increased that back up to 100% of, in my case, white, but that gives me the finished version. I'm going to group it, and if you needed to scale it, you can. In the instructions I mentioned, you can turn it all in as one file. That's what mine currently is. If yours is camera and separately pen and separately notebook, that's okay too. But do zip those first, and just remember, regardless of how you created and saved these, you're going to need to do the make exportable option. And I don't know what, I just clicked on the slice button rather than the export. So I clicked on the export option, and now I'm going to change it from PNG to PDF, and it will save my file for me after I click on that button. And I now have all three of them as a PDF. You see them here, and that's what I would turn in.